I'm going to tell you 9 questions that insurance adjusters do not want you to ask in personal injury claims, slip and falls, car accidents, and much more. You'll see how asking these questions may get you a larger settlement in a shorter amount of time, and we're starting right now. The first question that adjusters don't want you to ask is, what is your average claim payout? Adjusters at insurance companies are tracked by their average loss payouts. That's the average amount they're paying out per claim. In a car accident injury case, Geico was sued for bad faith, and claims documents were revealed that shows that Geico is ranking their insurance adjusters in different percentiles. Now, Geico adjusters in the 3rd and 4th percentile were paying out the most on average per claim, and claim documents showed that for these adjusters that were paying out in the upper 50% of claims, their supervisor was ordered to stop their settlement authority until there was improvement noted. The adjusters that were paying out in the top 50% of claims at Geico then have to ask their supervisors for authority. Adjusters don't want to have to ask their supervisors for authority because it takes extra time and then they can't settle claims as fast. I've had adjusters tell me that they're not ranked based on how much they pay. They're ranked based on how soon they reach out to the injured party after the accident and other things like that. The bottom line is that some adjusters are better negotiators than others, and yes, they are ranked in different percentages in the insurance company that they work for. The second question adjusters don't want you to ask is your settlement authority double your first offer? I spoke with an adjuster who worked at one of the largest insurance companies in the United States. He told me that his ultimate settlement authority was 2 times his opening offer. That means if his opening offer was $10,000, the most he could settle for was $20,000. Now, I don't suggest asking this question in the beginning of the claim. You should only ask it if their final offer is not twice their initial offer. The third question adjusters don't want you to ask in personal injury claims is, where can I find more about how you settle personal injury claims? In a state like Florida, the injured person or their attorney can file a civil remedy notice of insurer violation. All these claimed violations are kept online in a website that you can view. You can even search by the individual insurance adjuster. Now, you go to the section of this form where it says name of individual responsible for violation, if any, and you put in the adjuster's name. It's then going to show you the past times that people or their attorneys have filed complaints for civil remedy notices against these adjusters. In other words, these are times where the injured person or their attorney is saying that the insurance company was not acting in good faith. I'm going to give you an example of an actual civil remedy notice filed by an Uber passenger in an accident. The Uber passenger's attorney claimed that he had surgery to his lower back and the medical bills were over $200,000. Uber's insurance company, Progressive, responded by offering $2,500, and Uber's insurance company, Progressive, said that the injured person, Dos Santos, already received a fair offer from the at-fault party's insurance company. And Progressive claimed that it asked the Uber passenger's attorney for prior records. In any back injury or neck injury case, expect the insurance company to want to see your prior records. And if you fell at a hotel or theme park like Universal Studios, you can search by the name of the place where you fell. Now, it has to be the legal name. For example, Universal Studios would be NBC Universal, and you can then get an idea of how they handle past claims. The fourth question that insurance adjusters don't want you to ask in car accident and personal injury claims is, how much authority did you request to settle this case for? In order for an insurance adjuster to settle a case, they need to get authority. At some insurance companies, these adjusters already have authority without having to ask, but at other ones, they need to ask for authority. I heard that one of the largest insurance companies in the United States cut down their adjuster's authority from $100,000 to $10,000. This means that in order to settle a personal injury case for any amount above $10,000, they have to ask their manager for approval. To get approval from the manager, the adjuster has to complete an evaluation. This form gives you a good idea of the things that adjusters look for when deciding how much to pay you. Now, this form that you can see here is an updated evaluation form that the Hartford's attorneys complete to keep the adjusters advised. Now, even if the adjuster tells you how much they requested settlement authority for, it doesn't mean you're going to get paid this amount. I represented a man who was on a moped in Miami Beach, Florida, when a taxi made an improper U-turn in front of him. They crashed. My client had a deep bone bruise to his upper arm, the humerus. The adjuster for the taxi's insurance company told me that she had requested that her insurance company offer the $125,000 policy limits. Unfortunately, she then only offered $18,000, and we sued and ultimately settled for $25,000. And in this case, my client did not have a serious fracture and he didn't have surgery, so so the $25,000 was fair value for the case. The fifth question that adjusters don't want you to ask in personal injury cases is, what can I do for you to pay me more money in my case? Adjusters want to settle cases fast. They don't want cases lingering and staying open. Now, adjusters are overworked. Just look at what a third-party administrator for Walmart said. Surveys of workers' compensation adjusters show that even at a caseload of 130 files, adjusters consider themselves in a reactive mode, being overwhelmed with phone calls, data entry, and email requests. Generally speaking, the adjusters are not going to tell you how to increase the value of your case. They're not going to tell you, hey, you should get the 911 call. Maybe you'll hear my insured admitting fault in it. They're not going to tell you, although you've sent me the hospital bill, we still need the ER physician's bill because that's a separate bill, and that's going to add value to your case and result in a larger offer to you. If you're claiming that you have a head injury or brain injury, they're likely not going to tell you, hey, you should treat with a neuropsychologist. That may add significant value to your case. And if you're injured at an accident at a hotel or theme park or mall, they're not going to tell you to go to Google or TripAdvisor and look for reviews that show other people complaining of the same hazard that caused your injury. In this hotel slip and fall case here, you can see the insurance adjuster telling me the reviews have been considered, and she offered me $205,000. She was referring to the reviews that I had sent her showing other people complaining that the area was slippery and had issues. The sixth question that adjusters don't want you to ask is, how much can you offer me to settle my case? You will never know how much the insurance adjuster could offer you to settle your case. The one exception is if they're paying you the policy limits are what they are. The policy limits are the most they have to pay you under the insurance policy. In some cases that I've settled for fair value where my client wanted a very fast settlement, after the settlement I've asked the adjuster, if I would have sued, would you have offered me more money? And the adjuster will say, I would have asked my manager, and they probably would have offered $5,000 more or so. But ultimately, it's the client's decision when to settle, and some clients want a fast settlement. The seventh question that adjusters don't want you to ask in personal injury claims is, how often do you settle a case in less than 3 moves? That means 3 counteroffers on their part. Insurance claims involve negotiation. If you're not dealing with an insurance policy limit settlement, insurance adjusters rarely settle a case in less than 3 moves. I know an insurance adjuster who worked at one of the largest insurance companies in the United States, and he told me his supervisor told him never ever settle a case by making less than 3 offers. Insurance companies know that some people don't realize negotiation is part of a personal injury settlement. When negotiating, you need to be patient and never drop too much at one time. And please, whatever you do, do not tell the adjuster that you want a certain amount. Tell them you need a certain amount. It's a lot stronger of a negotiation position. When I say that insurance adjusters don't settle cases in less than 3 moves, that means typically if you were to demand $100,000 to settle, they may come back with $20,000. You then come down to $75,000. They come up to $40,000. You come down to $60,000. They come up to $50,000. And perhaps you meet somewhere in the middle. But don't expect an insurance adjuster to settle your case for fair value in less than 3 moves. The 8th question that insurance adjusters don't want you to ask in car accident, slip and falls, and personal injury claims is, do you like to settle for less money? Insurance companies want to settle for as little as possible, but don't take my word for it. Let's look at an actual document in a case where bad faith was alleged against Geico. The Geico regional claims manager said BIALP, that means bodily injury, average claim payouts dropped by 1%, and that's uninsured motorist insurance, average loss payouts, average claim paid out, improved by 5.2%. Nice job on both. You can see that this claims manager was happy that the average loss payout that Geico was paying out had decreased. In other words, the injured people were getting less money and Geico was saving money. Remember, insurance companies run on profit. The more profit they make, the more their shareholders benefit. The 9th question that insurance adjusters don't want you to ask in injury claims is, are you going to fight my case? Just because you call an insurance company or a claim is reported and they tell you that there's a claim number, or even if they tell you they've accepted liability for the accident, that does not mean they're not going to fight your case. They may accept liability for an accident, but they'll argue that your injuries are not related to the accident. So what good is that for your personal injury claim? Or they'll argue that your injuries aren't as bad as you're claiming they are. You know an adjuster is not fighting your case when they're offering you fair settlement value for their case. But until that happens, do not think that just because you're dealing with a sweet insurance adjuster who says thank you every time you send them a medical record or bill, that does not mean they're going to pay you fair value for your injury. I have dealt with some of the nicest insurance adjusters who would thank me for sending medical records and bills and thank me for my time every time I spoke with them on the phone. And then they ultimately denied liability in the case. I sued them and we ultimately got fair value for my client. Watch these videos here to learn how to get the largest settlement in the shortest amount of time. Subscribe to my channel